Whether it's in our schools or in our lives, we celebrate the end product, like the big moment, right? But it's really the process that leads you to that place. And within that process are all these magical little moments that happen that we sometimes have to bring to the surface so that people can see that.
What's up, Aspire Leaders? That is the wonderful voice of Lauren Kaufman, and we're going to be discussing her brand new book, The Leader Inside. Before we dive into that conversation, I just want to let you know one more time that we are going to be hosting, myself and Charlie Peck, the School Behavior Solutions Summit coming up here September 30th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a free event, so make sure that you're heading over to the link in the show notes to register for this very impactful online summit. And we're going to have a whole host of names: Todd Neslony, Andrea Bittner, Lindsay Titus, Dr. Cam Caswell, Allison Apsey, Dwight Carter, and so many more. So make sure that you're heading over to thrivingeducator.myflowdesk.com/summit. Again, that link's going to be at joshtamper.com or in the show notes, depending on where you're consuming this podcast. All right, so this week we're talking to Lauren Kaufman, and she's the Director of Literacy K-12 for a school district in Long Island, New York. She's served in many different roles as far as assistant principal, elementary instructional coach, elementary middle school reading specialist, and a new teacher mentor coordinator. So ton of experience and a whole host of roles. And we're going to be talking, like I said before, about her brand new fantastic book, The Leader Inside. So definitely check out that wonderful resource. Grab a copy for yourself, and let's dive in with the amazing Lauren Kaufman.
Welcome back, everyone, to Aspire to Lead, where we will be discussing the visions, inspirations, and experiences from top educational leaders. My name is Joshua Stamper, and you can connect with me on Twitter or on Instagram at Joshua_Stamper.
All right, Aspire Leaders and Teach Better family. If you are watching on YouTube, you are seeing a familiar face because Lauren was just on the podcast not too long ago, and I invited her back because, and I'm going to hold it up again for those who are watching on video, but she's got a phenomenal new book out, The Leader Inside, and I had a chance to read it before it even came out. I gave my endorsement, and if you saw on social media, I posted a picture and just raved on it because it is such a phenomenal resource. And I wanted to bring Lauren on because, like I said, she's got this new book and I wanted to talk more about it. So that's kind of our baseline for our conversation. But before we do that, Lauren, will you just give just a glimpse of an update on what you're up to now versus when you were on last for that first episode?
Gosh, it seems like it wasn't that long ago, but maybe it was.
I don't know. I feel like we talk, so maybe it wasn't.
I mean, I don't know. Where am I now? So I think I'm not in such a different place than where I was when we last spoke. But just to share with your audience real quick, in case you didn't catch the first episode, I had quite the trajectory of my career. I've been a classroom teacher, a reading specialist for elementary and middle school, an instructional coach, a mentor coordinator, an enrichment program supervisor. And then I stepped into a formal leadership role where I served as an assistant principal, which was awesome. And now I'm in a district leader role, serving as the director of literacy in a school district in New York. Here I am today, 19th year in education, just starting this week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So pretty much what you're saying is if someone looked up Lauren Kaufman, it would just be like superstar, has done all the roles in leadership and is just killing it.
I don't know. It's so crazy, Josh, because when I look back on my career, I would have never thought with each signpost on my journey that I would have gotten to the next. I thought the first school I ever got a teaching job in, I would retire there. And that was it. I loved it. These crazy things happen on your journey. These unexpected disruptions happen on your path, right? Which is really what The Leader Inside is about. That,
Yes.
no journey is linear or the same. We have these pivots in the road, these people that are placed on our path for a purpose and a reason. And some are placed there for moments, for minutes, for months, for weeks, years. Some come, some go, some stay with you, some don't. But there's a reason why we connect with people and they place us on that path and we go where we're destined to be, right? Yeah. The universe sometimes has other plans for us while we're working. So
isn't that the truth? Goodness sakes. Yeah. I can just imagine in my own journey, people that I got kind of in my way of that path, right? And had some crucial conversations, great conversations that changed the trajectory of everything. And I'm so fortunate for those folks. So Lauren, let's talk about the book real quick. I want to behind the scenes, right? Because I know that you blog all the time. And if folks haven't checked that out, I'm going to throw your website up here real quick while I'm saying this, is that I swear it's like every week that you are posting some phenomenal blog out there into the world. And now you have a book, and I'm just wondering that process, where did this thought come from for The Leader Inside? Is there a need that you saw that drove home your passion about this topic and wanting to write this resource? I'm just curious on behind the scenes.
Well, thank you so much for asking that question. And I just want to also thank you, Josh, because you're such a big supporter of so many people out there. And thank you for your support. You know, we all need each other. We all need each other to feel good about our work. That has to come intrinsically too, but to have cheerleaders by our side on that path, because when you write, you're being very vulnerable. So to have people believe in you and put your content out into the world, just that means the world to me. So thank you for that. And
my pleasure.
Going back to your question, you know, it's really interesting. I would say about 5 years ago, I was facilitating a mentor program, which I talked about in the first episode, in a previous school district, and absolutely loved that role. And while I was serving in that role, I was looking for a book to use as a framework and a guide for that, for the new teachers, for the mentors, the mentees. And I stumbled upon The Innovator's Mindset by George Couros. And I had reached out to George during that time, and I had asked him if he would create a video or come visit us to say, hey, you know, you're reading my book. I wish you well. And, you know, get the mentors and mentees excited. And what do you know, like 5 minutes later, he was sitting in the airport and he had a video sitting in my inbox. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy's really awesome. You know, that's so cool. And then we kind of kept in contact. I would share things out on social media about the Innovator's Mindset, some of the activities I was doing with the mentors and mentees. And then he visited us virtually. I had him as a guest in one of our meetings as one of our book study sessions. And during that time, George had challenged me in front of the mentors and mentees. He says, you know, Lauren, you have a lot of good ideas. You really need to share those ideas with the world. The world needs to hear these, and you need to start writing. So you need to start blogging now. And I said, oh, I don't know, George, you know, what will I have to share? No one has seen before. And then he brought that Derek Sivers quote, you know, or that little video that he shows around, you know, what's obvious to you is amazing to others.
Yes.
Great little video.
Yes, it is.
And powerful couple-minute video. And, you know, from there, I pushed out my first blog, and not too long after that. And I remember surprising him. I think I tagged him in the blog, and he was like, oh my goodness. And he retweeted it. I can't believe you did it. So I started blogging probably around like once a month. And I used to perseverate on those blogs. I used to really critique them, look them over. And then a friend once said to me, Lauren, just get it out there. You know, actually a mutual friend of ours, you know, said, just get it out there. Don't worry about it. You can always go back in, because it is true with the blog. You can go back in, you can change a word or two. It's still a little bit different with the book, right? So then, you know, blogging monthly just to reflect on my learning, which is really what it was all about. You know, I was blogging really for myself to think about, you know, what did I do this week? What did I read this week? What book did I read? What article did I read? What podcast did I listen to? And that all inspired me to connect those ideas to practice. And then what happened in my world this week? What interactions did I have this week that connected to these ideas? So I started developing a style of blogging, you know, and I look back years ago at my blogs, they've kind of evolved into this formula that's just kind of natural for me. It's like, let me tell this story. Let me share this blog, this book, this podcast. And now here's what it looked like in my world. And maybe it doesn't have to look like that for you, but how can it look like for you? What can you take away from this that you can implement tomorrow? So I started even putting in my blogs, you know, actionable ideas to implement tomorrow, which actually became part of the book, which I'll talk about in a second. So then, you know, that became weekly over time that I started blogging. And listen, there are some weeks I don't feel like writing at all, but I push myself to really do that, because I know that when I don't do it, I get a little anxious. It's just like some people like to work out. Some people like to paint, go on shopping sprees. Some people like to write like me. And, you know, that's something I like to do. is part of something that's me time. So George, during that time, came back to me probably a couple years into my blogging, or maybe not even a couple of years. And he said, Lauren, I think now it's time to write a book. I think you have a book in you. I said, George, you already asked me to blog. Isn't that enough? He goes, nope, I think you have a book. I said, I don't know. I'm not ready. So I wasn't ready at the time. I kind of felt like, I hadn't gotten to that point yet where I could see the story. But then about a year and a half ago, it actually came to me and I said, oh my goodness, I think I'm ready to write this book. I talked to myself. I said it in my head, I think I'm ready. I text George real quick. I go, George, what do I have to do to, put in a proposal for a book? He's like, you're ready? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And I said, yeah, I'm ready. Just tell me real quick, because I'm going to say no if I don't keep going right now, And he told me what I needed to do. And so what I really started doing was looking at my blogs, and I started looking for trends and patterns in my blogs. And when I pushed my blogs out, I was really looking back at the stats and seeing, well, what was resonating with people? Because when I push out a blog, I don't do it for likes or reposts, things like that. I do it really just to reflect on my learning, like I said before. But what's interesting is to look at the stats, because you can see how your posts are being shared, where they're being shared. And I was seeing that there were certain posts being shared at universities, in school newsletters, things like that. And it was really around the path to leadership, mentorship, and coaching. Those were my top most visited blogs. So I really looked back at them and I said, okay, well, where is the story here? What story do I want to weave together? And that's how those blogs became The Leader Inside. And then I realized that I've had a lot of collaboration over this writing journey that I've done. I've collaborated with a lot of awesome people. And I actually love reading books where there are other voices spotlighted in those books, because maybe the reader, maybe they're resonating with what I'm saying, but maybe they're going to resonate with somebody else a little bit better and connect to their journey. So I thought about, okay, well, I invited a handful of women who are educators and leaders in the space. I know them all personally and professionally, so they were very thoughtfully selected for this book, because I knew that what they would give me, I'd feel very connected to. So I have Lainey Rowell, I have Stephanie Rothstein, I have Natasha Nurse, my 4th grade teacher, Linda Roth, which is a pretty special aspect, I think, of this book.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And Megan Lawson, who's like the ultimate closer of writing in books. She's like the Mariano Rivera, if you follow the Yankees, of writing. Like, you have to have her at the end, because Megan speaks in quotes. But actually, I write at the end of the book, but she is the end contributor in the book.
That's so funny.
This is really about, Josh, a collection of stories about part 1 is your path to leadership. Yeah. How did you get there? No path is linear or the same. We tell through story, we tell through a little research, and then there are actionable ideas to implement tomorrow at the end of each chapter that you can use for a book study. The second part is all about that there are mentors all around us, and all about how I developed a mentor program in my previous school district, in very actionable ways to do that for educators and leaders alike. And then the last part of the book is all about stories of impact and courage. What obstacles or setbacks have we had on our journey that we've overcome and we persevered through, who have shaped us into the leaders we are still becoming? All right. And I say still becoming because our journey is infinite. It's never ending. And I think it's kind of cool. Simon Sinek says in his book, The Infinite Game, and I quote this in the book, how there is a team of people waiting to meet you. And I think that's pretty exciting, right? Like, Josh, I didn't know you, a couple years ago,
Yep.
right? And now I would say we're pretty connected as people who support each other.
Yeah.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
That's really what the book is about. This is for educators and leaders and aspiring leaders and anyone in education, really. I think there's a story in here that anyone can connect to, as well as really building a strong foundation for teachers and leaders. There's an open roadmap of advice for teachers and leaders on how to have success and a long, meaningful career, which looks different for anyone. And I call it an open roadmap because there are only suggestions and guides, and you can kind of take away from it what might enhance your journey. So that's really basically what the book is about. And I can't believe I'm even here talking about it.
Isn't it crazy when you get that box and it's actually like a tangible item that you could touch? It's so crazy to actually hold it in your hands. Like it's real. But then also you talked about the vulnerability piece, and it's another thing then to like say, okay, I'm launching into the world for people to interpret my words and to hopefully find value in it. It's quite the process. I guess it's very similar to a blog, but like you said, you can't edit it.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on a couple of things that you said though. Lauren, when you talked about blogging, I love the idea of it being a reflective process for yourself. And maybe that message does resonate with someone else, and maybe it's helpful for them wherever they are at. And even if it helps one person, I know your heart, I know what you're all about. You're going to feel like gold in that situation. If it affects 1,000 people, 5,000 people, it doesn't really matter the number as long as it's supporting someone. But I think you gained a ton in that reflection process as a leader yourself, to like be able to go back and see where I was, the struggles I was going through, how I faced that adversity and was successful, or maybe I failed and I learned a lesson through that where I won't do that again. And I just want to challenge anyone out there, and it doesn't have to be blogging, whatever it is, a podcast, just notes on your phone. You know, it can be a lot of different things, but that reflection process is so powerful. And I think for your mental health, not only your growth as a professional, but also your mental health, there's something that's there for you that you need to tap into. Lauren, you had, I want to quote you, you said it was time for myself. And, you know, a lot of us have families, we have a spouse or a loved one that, you know, we're with. And sometimes we just need some time to step away for ourselves. And it may look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people.
Yeah, I think it's important to live in your thoughts. And I once saw a quote on social media, something like, you spend the most time inside your head, you know, be kind to yourself in what you say. And I'll be honest, I'm not always kind to myself. I don't always tell myself the nicest stories. Can anyone relate? I know that, you know, various things happen over the course of a day, a week, a month, a year. And really what this book is about too, because I think it's the way I write a lot about the small moments that have big impacts, because a lot of times it's the big things that get celebrated and publicized, you know, whether it's in our schools or in our lives. We celebrate the end product, like the big moment, right? But it's really the process that leads you to that place. And within that process are all these magical little moments that happen that we sometimes have to bring to the surface so that people can see that. And sometimes it's not us we're not able to bring our own celebrations to the surface. Sometimes it's other people who can do that for us, who can unwrap those really amazing gifts within us and get us to see things that we can't see ourselves, and get you to see that these setbacks and obstacles in your life, they're mere moments. They're not the sum total of your life. And that discomfort really bridges your past with your future. And that's really a lot about what this is about. When you talk about reflection, living in that space of reflection, it's also thinking about every interaction as a learning experience. And that really enhances your leadership lens. And when I say leadership lens, I mean that anybody who serves in a role in education, no matter what role you serve in, you are a leader for kids. You have to view yourself as leaders, and kids should view themselves as leaders too. Because if it wasn't for Mrs. Roth, my 4th grade teacher, who's in the book, who's my mentor, who I still talk to every week, that's the type of impact you can have on a child's life. If she didn't see the leader within me, I don't know that I'd be sitting here, you know, talking about this book. So that reflection and surrounding yourself with people that act as mirrors. You can kind of see yourself in people, and then also the interactions and the people you don't see yourself in, and think about things that you wouldn't do that way. How would you do it different? You know, what type of leader do you want to be? I ask in the book. The type of leader I always needed. That's what I say, you know? Yeah, through that reflection, I think you also have to be kind to yourself and realize that you have another chance. You have another moment, another day to make a difference, If you didn't think you did a good enough job one day or one moment, there's another moment to do that. So, that's what this living in a state of reflection is all about. I think educators are naturally reflective people. I kind of I haven't met one that hasn't been. I think we reflect just in different ways, and we're different people. So it might manifest itself a little bit differently in different people, right?
I'm just hoping for those who are listening, it's not like I wake up at 2 a.m. stressing and reflecting at that moment. I'm hoping that there's some healthy habits similar to what Lauren was talking about, because the job is stressful enough alone. And so we just need to put some things in place to make sure that, we have some boundaries, healthy boundaries with the job. Lauren, I'm going to take a moment just real quick, since we're talking about our mental health and putting some things in place on our reflection. I also want to talk about something that I've been using and has helped me in a lot of areas of my life. Magic Mind is amazing. It also is allowing me to have a sharper mind. It lowers my stress. It also is giving me a lot of energy. So no matter what I'm doing, if I'm on a podcast with an amazing guest like Lauren, it gives me that boost of energy and focus that I need to have a wonderful conversation. If I'm doing something like blogging or writing a book, as I'm currently in the middle of, I usually throw one of these little mindful shots down, and it gives me what I need to make sure that I have my mind in the right place. I also think it's fantastic for my physical health also. So, if I'm sick or before I run or I go exercise, I take my Magic Mind every single day. For those who want percentage off, I know that's very important for folks. I want to make sure that you're getting this at the lowest cost possible. If you're getting a subscription or just one-time buy, magicmind.com/aspire-to-lead. The code is aspire-to-lead20. That'll give you 20% off minimum. So if Magic Mind is running another ad, it'll actually add 20% on, up to 48% off. So you're going to get a lot of savings in this code. So make sure that you're not only going to magicmind.com/aspire-to-lead, but using the code aspire-to-lead20 to get that 20% off. And every single day, take my Magic Mind, and there's a subscription you can get, and I get the 30 pack that gets delivered to my door every single day. If you want to cancel, it's super easy to cancel. And of course, they give a money back guarantee, which I know you won't use because it is a phenomenal product and has helped me quite a bit, my mental health. So all that being said, Lauren, let's go back to mental health, because you start the book with kind of a mindset piece of kind of like setting the table of saying like, hey, we need to unleash greatness within. And I just want you to speak on that first off, because I think it's a powerful thing. I don't believe any reader can really get into the book without really starting there. And I want to know kind of what that means in regards to that first chapter.
Sure. So I really frame the book that there are exceptional gifts that live within exceptional educators that are just waiting to be unwrapped at the right place at the right time with the right people. And that we have to recognize that the heartbeat of education really lives within the walls of schools. And within the walls of those schools, we see leaders and educators in the mess of learning. I really frame the book about how I tried to get you and hope to get you to reflect on your path and your journey. Think about all the time since you were a child, somebody has seen something in you that you didn't see in yourself. And I kind of take you through how that happened for me on my path, and how every marker along that path was something like a disruptor that I didn't know would happen, but did. And it led me into this different direction. So I frame the book that, we have to be that person maybe on someone's journey. Think about the people who've done that for you. And now you can help other people find their light and their gifts, and be that spark that ignites interest in someone. Because I say that not everybody has to have a passion right away. I think interests can turn into passions, but if you can help people explore their interests, and that can ignite a sense of passion and purpose. And I think if we have that purpose in what we do, I think we can row to our destination. Even when there are those pivots in the road and those unexpected turns, we could still see where we need to go. The light is still at the end, and it keeps going. And then you don't have to search for the big things to see the good things happen. So in that chapter, I frame a lot of those little interactions that happen along the way that were actually so much bigger. They were maybe just a microcosm of somebody else's day or my day, but I weave it throughout the book so you can kind of see how, remember when I said that in the beginning of the book, look what happened here. Think about how can you connect those puzzle pieces in your life, because each interaction and experience, it's like that little puzzle piece that we put together to see that bigger picture, to paint that picture. So that's really what it's about. It's like there are future leaders just waiting for you to recognize and discover and unleash those gifts and unleash the greatness within. People there are waiting because, not everybody has that. Maybe not everybody can say, somebody saw something in me I didn't see in myself. So think about how can you pay it forward, for other people? How can you start? And then the cycle continues. You recognize those gifts in others, then they can do that for other people. And then we just keep perpetuating that type of system and approach.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about with like interest turning into passion. I also think of exposure sometimes creates that interest that turns into passion, because I can think of a handful of examples of I didn't even know I liked something because I just didn't have that experience. And then when I was granted that, or someone suggested, hey, be on this committee or take on this project, and then I got my feet wet into it, then I was like, man, I really like this. I want to do more of this. Or, I really enjoyed this role just for a moment. I got to be admin for a day or whatever it may be. And then that might turn into something that, you just fall in love with, and that turns into that passion. So, being open to being exposed to new experiences.
Yeah. And embracing discomfort too.
Yeah.
I just wrote a blog post all around how, you might be uncomfortable, but you're growing. And I can remember earlier on in my career, I did not like that feeling of discomfort. I was okay with just doing my thing and sailing along. And, those little taps on the shoulder I used to get, they used to scare me. I used to kind of fear them. Like, I'm good where I am, but, we make choices, and we want those choices to reflect our hopes, not our fears. I think the evolution of me is embracing new things and trying new things, and also inviting other perspectives. I also used to be like, my way is the way. When I first started teaching many years ago, it was like, how is this person not doing it this way, or teaching this lesson like this, or planning like this? I remember thinking that. When I look back on it, it's kind of silly, but that's what I was doing back in those days, almost 2 decades ago. But then, as you evolve and you become more confident, maybe it comes with confidence. You see that other perspectives and giving other people a seat at the table is really an invitation for growth, right? So you want people to think like you sometimes, because it's nice to commiserate sometimes and agree, right? We all need that here and there to feel reaffirmed and comfortable. But then you also want to invite people who get you to think a little bit differently. And that's exciting to me now, and I talk a little bit about that too in the book, that you never thought you would embrace an idea or a perspective, and then you do, and it changes your path and your trajectory. And so I think if we're open to living in that discomfort a little bit, and know that growth and comfort do not coexist, and be okay with that, and be okay with iterating and failing a lot, because we're going to try things, we're going to fail. But if we never fail, right, it means maybe we're not trying new things. Maybe we're too comfortable. So it's like, how can we find that space where we're kind of floating in both areas? Because it is nice to feel comfortable too. It's like going back to your favorite book, your favorite children's book, or your favorite vacation spot. You're comfortable there, right? You sit in the same spot in a restaurant or on the train or something like that. So we need those moments too, for sure. But
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, even in like a staff meeting, everyone sits in the same spot every time with the same people. I mean, we're so into our own rituals and traditions that sometimes we don't step out. No, I love what you're saying, Lauren.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, because I'm looking at the time, and I don't want to keep you forever, although I could talk to you forever, Lauren. You're phenomenal. Talking about mentorship, you state in the book, like, mentors are everywhere and they're all around you. And I really want you to expand on that, because, through my time, I've got to work with school districts all over the country, and with leaders and aspiring leaders. And a lot of times when I'm talking about mentorship, people are shaking their head vigorously, like, yes, yes, yes. And then I typically get the question, or given a circumstance of like, hey, I don't feel like I have someone on my campus, or I haven't connected with anyone in my district, or, like they're still seeking for that. And I just want you to kind of expand on that mentorship piece, because I think everyone is in agreement, but maybe just sharing out, some advice in regards to seeking out and finding someone that's, going to enhance their leadership journey.
Sure. I would hope that most organizations have a formal mentor program, because that is a space where hopefully you have someone facilitating that experience who can connect you with a strong mentor. Because I think that, we want people to have these long, meaningful careers, and organizations who invest in mentorship. I know in New York State, we actually have mentoring standards. There is an expectation around building professional learning communities in your organization in New York State. That's important. But if you don't, let's say, right, because if you do, there is a framework and there is a structure within that. And even if you do, if you're assigned a formal mentor, I think it's important to know that, you don't have to just go to that one person for everything, that there are different people within your organization that have different expertise and knowledge. So some people might be really, really, they know the community very deeply. Maybe they grew up in the community and they were raised there and they went to school there and they have deep roots there. You got to tap into those people. Then there are systems and structures that you need to know for safety and student life and operations. And there are people that are really experts in that, all of those things. And then you have your instructional people who are masters at planning amazing student-centered lessons, engaging lessons, or maybe you have people who are really good at building connections with kids. So you have to really start, my one piece of advice is, learn the mission and vision of your district, learn a little bit about your community, the people in your organization, whether you have a structured mentor program or not. I always observe very closely and watch what is happening around. Who are the people? I ask a lot of questions. Who is that person and what do they do? Who is the person to go to for X, whatever that may be? And talk to those people. And I think asking questions, I write about this a lot actually, is probably the best thing you can do. A, because you learn more about where you are. B, it shows you're a little bit vulnerable. I think vulnerability is a good thing. You don't have to know it all, and you don't have to pretend that you know it all. I think, 20 years ago, I would have pretended maybe to know it all, and I probably should have asked a lot more questions. But that's big advice, I think, is asking questions and knowing that you don't have to know all the answers, and that's okay. And then also, not only within your own organization to be doing these things, but look beyond your organization. So you have your professional learning community within your organization, but then your network, you can expand it even further, because there are people I go to, like you, Josh, like Lainey, like any of the contributors in my book, and tons of people. I could name them. And now there are tons. They go beyond just my 10 fingers of people I would not only that I met through social media, let's say, and I can reach out to them, text them, call them about anything. What do you think about this? What is your school district doing? I had this interaction today. What do you think? Like just an objective type of person who can really look in and give you that advice. So I think that's my advice. I think when I say mentors are all around you, they are. They're within you're in your community and beyond. And I think you just have to kind of go out there and reach out and connect with people.
I love the idea of seeking out individual strengths of people. It's almost like mentorship as a buffet versus a main course. Like, it's not like we're going on the menu and ordering steak and thinking that's the perfect mentor for me, right? Like it really does. I can think of, while you're saying that, like so many folks that I reached out to my district and beyond of like, hey, I know that you're excellent at this and I need to learn and be better in this one area. Can we talk? And that could be over coffee. That could be on a Zoom call. I mean, there's a lot of different formats that you can have formally and informally, but still it's just like trying to get that growth based on the expertise of the person versus it just being like a set, we're meeting every week or we're meeting every month and it's just one person and I'm solely invested only in that one relationship. So I love what you're talking about, Lauren. That truly it's that lens, right? Like you were talking about before. If you have that lens that everyone around you could potentially be a mentor that's going to help your development, like tap into that. I love the book, honestly. So
Thank you.
yeah. So we could talk about this, like I said, for a very long time. So I'm going to hold
Yes.
this up again. The Leader Inside, phenomenal book by Lauren Kaufman. I will have the link in the show notes, or if you go over to joshtamper.com, I'll have not only the book link, but also all the social media links for Lauren. And please reach out to her if you have any questions, if something hit a nerve today, or you want more information. Maybe you even need, searching for a mentor and want to, talk to Lauren more about something specific to your leadership journey. Reach out. She's phenomenal. She's an amazing person. Highly recommend that you connect in every single way. And then with that, Lauren, will you just share out how people can connect with you? I know I've been putting your website up for those who are watching on YouTube.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. But yes, laurenmkaufman.com. That is my website. You can pretty much find anything I'm doing in terms of writing, the book, if I'm speaking, but also social media handles at Lauren M. Kaufman. And yes, please reach out to me. Like Josh said, I always like connecting with educators, and you never know where that interaction can lead us. So I definitely invite that conversation.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, Lauren, I just want to thank you so much for our connection. You have spoken great things into my life. You talk about trajectory and roads and people that you kind of come in contact that you didn't realize were going to make a huge impact. And you're one of those folks. So I just thank you for, just the communication that we've had in the past, being a positive light, but then also just being a phenomenal resource to so many educators, not only with the book, but with your blog and what you post on social media. You are doing great things, my friend.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you. That means the world. And thank you to all the educators and leaders and anyone who serves kids for everything you do. It's truly amazing. We appreciate you.